Welcome, awards fans. I'm Daniel Montgomery, senior editor at Gold Derby, here with my colleagues Denton Davidson, Ray Richmond, and Marcus James Dixon, and our special guest expert, Tariq Khan. We are here to talk about the BAFTAs, and we're going to predict the winners of the BAFTAs in however many categories we get to in in the allotted time. We'll try to get through as many as possible. So let's start with Best Picture. We've got the nominees are Anatomy of a Fall, The Holdovers, Killers of the Flower Moon, Oppenheimer and Poor Things. So we just saw Oppenheimer win at the Directors Guild Awards. It seems like everything's going its way. Does it just continue to steamroll here? Does anyone have anything besides Oppenheimer here? Let's start with
that.
No, Oppenheimer.
Oppenheimer and Christopher Nolan. I think those are two very safe bets.
I will give somebody $100 if they pick the holdovers just for fun. You know, $100. Somebody, come on, just to add some excitement.
I'm speculating about the holdovers. What that would look like in an upset for the Oscars, but not for BAFTA.
At Gold Derby, there are 12 users predicting the holdovers. There are 10 users predicting Killers of the Flower Moon. But then, of course, 2,125 are predicting Oppenheimer. So that does seem like the safe bet.
It's a slight discrepancy.
Yeah, but there's a chance of Oppenheimer losing BAFTA, let's face it.
You know, I know we're all pretty unanimous because the industry and voters seem to be unanimous about this. But how many of us can honestly say Oppenheimer was our favorite film of the year?
Not me.
Anyone?
Honestly, of these five, I'd vote for Oppenheimer.
And see, the thing is this year is that of all the people I've talked to, everyone loves a different movie. I mean, there's huge fans of different things. And I think Oppenheimer is the consensus that everyone likes. Like of these five, my favorite was Poor Things. But I mean, and other people love The Holdovers and Killers of the Flower Moon. Anatomy of a Fall has a lot of fans. So, but everyone at least likes Oppenheimer.
I find that everybody else at least likes The Holdovers too.
That's true.
Of this five, Killers is actually my favorite. But, you know, if this was ranked choice at the Oscars, Oppenheimer would probably be in my top 4. Even though I didn't,
so
I mean,
it's not your least favorite of the.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to put it 10 or 9 or 8. You know what I mean? I don't imagine a lot of people are.
No. It's going to be in everybody's top 4 or 5, I'm sure. And you're right. Poor Things is still very divisive, although that and The Holdovers were my 2 favorite movies of the year.
Yeah, I think the reason that Oppenheimer is so safe here is because there's no clear alternative. You know, it's not even clear what would be second here in the voting. I mean, would it be Poor Things? Would it be Anatomy of a Fall? Whatever it is, it's probably a very, very distant second. So Oppenheimer is just so safe. There's almost no point in debating it. Is my feeling.
Yeah, and I feel like, you know, it's one of those things where the director is so secure that they're just carrying their film along for the ride, because there's no other film that's, you know, really taken charge, you know, which brings us to Best Director, which is going to be, I think, a short conversation. But let's just go over the nominees. Christopher Nolan, who we've talked about a little bit, Oppenheimer. Then we got Jonathan Glazer for The Zone of Interest, Justine Triet for Anatomy of a Fall, Alexander Payne for The Holdovers, didn't get in at the Oscars, got in here. Andrew Haig for All of Us Strangers. Yes, love that nomination. And Bradley Cooper for Maestro, also another one who didn't get in at the Oscars. It looks like Nolan, the only other Oscar nominees you got here are Glazer and Triet, and I don't see them happening. You know,
no.
Does anyone not have Christopher Nolan to win this? Actually, I probably don't even have to ask because it's actually unanimous in our odds that all of the experts, all of the editors, all of the top 24, all of the all-stars are predicting Christopher Nolan to win this.
Don't you wish every category was like this at Gold Derby? Our job would be so much easier.
Did you see at the DGA when they announced Christopher Nolan's name for feature film? That was the least surprised face I've ever seen.
I mean, I think any, you know, momentum that Trier or Glazer would have cancels each other out by them both being there. I mean, if one of them was gonna be a secure second place, they're kind of stopped in their tracks by the other.
Yeah, you know, if he was an American, you know, he'd still be safe. The fact that he's British here at BAFTA
Yeah.
for Best
Oh,
Director makes it that much safer. So
it's the
he's
slam dunk of all time.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Actress, however, I think is a much better conversation and a much better debate.
Yeah, so let's take a look at that. Best Actress is an interesting race. Missing from this lineup is one of the Oscar frontrunners, Lily Gladstone, for Killers of the Flower Moon. But in her place, we've got Emma Stone, Poor Things, Sandra Hüller for Anatomy of a Fall, Carey Mulligan, Maestro, Margot Robbie, Barbie didn't get in at the Oscars, infamously, but got in here. Vivian Oparah for Rye Lane, and Fantasia Barrino for The Color Purple. Which was a bit of a surprise. And yeah, I personally think this is a two-way race. I think if you're Lily Gladstone, you are like rooting for Sandra right now to win this. Because I think it'll be harder for Sandra to win the Oscar than it would be for Emma if Emma keeps going on her momentum. But I do think this will be Emma. I think it's close between those two. What do you think, Dan?
I have Emma right now, but I do think this is an interesting race. And if Sandra does win this, the Oscars are going to be very interesting. And we're going to do a different slugfest for SAG, where I think this race could get even more interesting when we discuss the nominees. But depending on how things play out and who wins which awards, on Oscar night, we could have our hands in the air. I mean, say Lily Gladstone wins SAG and Hüller wins BAFTA, and we had Emma Stone win Critics' Choice and the Globe. It could be a very fun Oscar for Best Actress. But I'm predicting Emma Stone here. But Hüller is a very strong second place for me.
And remember when we had Best Actress go all over the place a few years ago with Andra Day winning the Golden Globe, and then Carey Mulligan winning Critics' Choice, and then Viola Davis winning the SAG Award, and Frances McDormand for Nomadland winning the BAFTA Award. It ended up being the BAFTA winner that took Oscar. So, like, if you
But she was also in the Best Picture, and that's
true.
Probably not going to happen this year.
Yeah, true. But still, it would be interesting if all of those split. If Hüller might move up in our odds for the Oscar. What do you think, Ray?
Yeah, that could happen. We could see a big split. I can't, especially once her momentum started going, I can never vote against Emma Stone for Poor Things. She's so good. And she seems to have a lot of momentum at her back. So Sandra Hüller, you know, though, if she's going to win, I think it's going to be at the BAFTAs, not the Oscars. But yeah, you certainly can't count her out. You know, in a different year, without such a strong field, Carey Mulligan would take this. She's also incredible. I think all along has been the best thing about Maestro. But it is a two-way race this year, and I think Emma's got it.
Marcus?
I think it's a two-way race, and I think Sandra's got it. So there, Ray. This is Sandra's best chance.
You're allowed to be wrong.
This is Sandra's best chance to win an award. And I mean, she's a German actress, but she's done so many British films. She almost does have the hometown advantage with this group. And I just think, you know, with all of the love for Anatomy of a Fall that it got at BAFTA, and I realize Poor Things got a lot of nominations as well, but Anatomy of a Fall was kind of almost like an underdog film this whole year. And that now it gets all these nominations at BAFTA and all these nominations at the Oscars. I think 5 at the Oscars. There's a lot of love for this movie, and without Sandra, this movie would not be what it is. So I'm giving it my prediction to Sandra Hüller, and I hope I'm right. I really want her to win this.
Tariq?
Okay, Marcus, I'm with you. You're brilliant. It is going to be Sandra Hüller. This performance has got so much acclaim. Voters, I know here, love Anatomy of a Fall. It's a strong contender at BAFTA. And she, for them, she's the more prestigious pick. You know, she's European, she's art house. The film is so widely acclaimed. I think they'll go with her. And remember, she's a double nominee. She's nominated for supporting actress for Zone of Interest as well, which she has no chance of winning. But she's in two high-profile films, both widely praised performances. And I think they're going to give it to her. Also, you know, Emma Stone, for her to win a second Best Actress BAFTA award. She won, of course, Best Actress at BAFTA and the Oscars for La La Land, Best Actress of 2016. For her to win a second Best Actress BAFTA, that would put her in the same league as the likes of other American actresses. I'm talking Americans here, like Frances McDormand and Meryl Streep and Jane Fonda and Shirley MacLaine. Anne Bancroft won 3 times at BAFTA for Best Actress. Is Emma Stone quite in that league just yet? I'm not sure. And one more thing, you know, Emma Stone, she's playing British in Poor Things. For a lot of those Brits, they're going to say, we don't need an American to come and take a British role. We don't need. I think they're going to turn their noses at Stone, who was great and would be deserving, and give it to Sandra Uller, and that will put her on path to potentially win the Oscar. So watch out for what happens at BAFTA. I think this could be a game changer.
You think they're that snarky? Americans love for foreigners to come and take our roles.
True, right? Yes, exactly.
Yeah, we do. We I think Americans feel like Brits are better actors than Americans.
Oh, that's a classic masterpiece theater effect. You know, by the way, recall that Emmanuel Riva won Best Actress in 2012 for Amour, and then lost the Oscar to Jennifer Lawrence. But BAFTA voters, they went with, you know, an international actress. So if they could go with Emmanuel Riva that year, I think they can easily go for Sandra Uller for Anatomy of a Fall, a film which they clearly like so much, and an actress whose performance has been so applauded.
And I don't know how much this would affect the acting races, but Anatomy of a Fall did get a casting nomination here, where Poor Things did not. So they clearly thought that the actors were better chosen for Anatomy of a Fall overall than they were for Poor Things. So that's an interesting bit.
You got me thinking. I'm gonna admit, you have me considering a change here.
Follow us.
Tariq is very convincing. Marcus too.
I'm okay. I'm okay.
Well, that brings us to Best Actor. The nominees are Cillian Murphy for Oppenheimer, Paul Giamatti for The Holdovers, Bradley Cooper for Maestro, Barry Keoghan for Saltburn, hooray! Coleman Domingo, Rustin, and Teo Yu for Past Lives. No Andrew Scott here for All of Us Strangers. I just want to bring that up again because that's so annoying to me. It got in everywhere else, including Best Director and Best Casting, and the lead actor did not get in. So maddening. But he wasn't going to win it anyway. I can admit that. This is probably going to be between the same 2 or 3 actors who things have been between all season long, with Cillian Murphy having won the Golden Globe, Paul Giamatti having won a Golden Globe and Critics' Choice Award. Bradley Cooper, they clearly liked Maestro, and it's the showiest performance here. I'm going Cillian. You know, he's Irish, so home field advantage, but that burned me last year when many of us thought that Colin Farrell would win for Banshees of Inisherin, and they picked the Yank. They picked Austin Butler for playing Elvis. So what do you think, Tariq?
I think it is Cillian Murphy. I think that Oppenheimer is so strong, and you know, he's such a widely praised actor. And also, I think that, you know, last year one of the reasons Colin Farrell lost was that Bill Nye in Living took a lot of votes away from Colin Farrell that otherwise might have gone to him. I mean, if there had been no Bill Nye last year, I think Colin Farrell might have won the BAFTA, might have won the Oscar as well. So that was a factor. So here, I think it's Murphy. I think he has the British Isles advantage, if you will, you know, being Irish. And also, recall last year, you know, both Barry Keoghan and Kerry Condon won supporting races at BAFTA for Banshees of Inisherin. So the Brits clearly like the Irish. So I think that he has the edge. And if Murphy wins, he definitely has a great shot at the Oscar. If he loses, I think it's hard for him to win the Oscars. But if he wins at BAFTA, he's definitely in the game and definitely can win the Oscar.
I forgot how off the BAFTAs were last year. Were they 0 for 4 in acting?
They were 0 for 4. They were 0 for 4. They disagreed with the SAG Awards, and the SAG Awards were 4 for 4, which was interesting last year.
I don't think that happens again. I think Cillian's got this one. I absolutely, you know, home country advantage or home home region of the world advantage, at least with Cillian being Irish. Even though Paul Giamatti, I live and die with at the Oscars, but I don't think he's winning here.
I disagree with Ray yet again. I do think Paul Giamatti is winning here. And part of the reason is because I have Oppenheimer winning 8 BAFTAs already without Cillian. That's a lot. I don't know what the record is for BAFTA, but I just don't see them winning every single category, that, or almost every single category that they're up for. So I'm trying to look at where they could possibly lose. I think Cillian Murphy is kind of a weaker front runner. You have Paul Giamatti, who is universally beloved in a movie, The Holdovers, that people love. Maybe not as much as Oppenheimer, but they still love it. And also watch out for Bradley Cooper. He got a directing nomination at BAFTA. How wild is that? They love this guy. And we have not seen any of the industry awards chime in yet. Bradley Cooper could be the SAG winner, could be the BAFTA winner, could be the Oscar winner. We don't know yet. So it is a 3-way race between those 3. And I'm going with Paul Giamatti because I think he's going to win the Oscar eventually. So I think maybe BAFTA was wrong last year for 0 for 4, but I think they're going to be more on track this year.
And the Holdovers, they did love Holdovers too, with those picture and director nominations. So, they're definitely not soft on that film. What do you think, Denton?
I have Cillian, and I don't have much really to add than others have. I actually have him going all the way through the Oscars. So this is another close race. It's gonna be interesting, but I think his safest bet is BAFTA. If he loses BAFTA, his Oscars are over.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I think I agree that if he loses, it's sort of like the Colin Farrell situation where Colin Farrell kind of needed BAFTA to really be in the race. And here I think Cillian needs BAFTA, especially if Paul Giamatti wins. I don't think Paul Giamatti loses the Oscar if he can win BAFTA. And same with Bradley Cooper, maybe also. This could be a do or die for Cillian Murphy. No pressure.
Just don't die.
Yeah, just don't do that. Next up, we've got Best Supporting Actress, where the nominees are Divine Joy Randolph for The Holdovers, Emily Blunt for Oppenheimer, Rosamund Pike for Saltburn, Danielle Brooks for The Color Purple, Sandra Hüller for The Zone of Interest, and Claire Foy for All of Us Strangers. I'm looking for reasons not to predict Divine Joy Randolph. It seems like she's just going to kind of walk through the season with these awards.
If she loses, this is where she loses.
Yeah, the closest I can think of, because she has that home field advantage. I mean, they nominated her for Girl on the Train, Emily Blunt. So I think she has a shot here, even though her role in Oppenheimer is relatively small. So I think it's one of those two, but I'm sticking with Divine.
I actually think this is the most interesting category at the BAFTAs this year. I feel like this could go in any one of 4 directions. Divine I'm picking, but I feel like Emily Blunt could take it. I feel like Rosamund Pike has a shot. Partly because of the kind of role she plays in Saltburn, and she's so sassy and hilarious. And I can see that absolutely resonating. And Danielle Brooks is just a force of nature. And I see that, that the Academy doesn't like The Color Purple. Otherwise, I was going to be sticking with Danielle, but yeah, Divine Joy Randolph. It's hard to vote against her until she loses, but this could be where she loses, even though I'm picking
her.
Yeah, I have Divine right now as well, but this is a very interesting category. This is the supporting actress lineup here are from films that are more widely supported than this category at the Oscars. I mean, even Danielle Brooks, Fantasia got in here, which is, I mean, she's the only nominee for The Color Purple at the Oscars. All of Us Strangers did very well. So Claire Foy's just sort of kind of hiding under in last place in our odds, but you never know what could happen. I'm going with the Oscar frontrunner right now, so I'm sticking with Devine and that to be, I think, I mean, I'm not going to get way ahead of myself, but I think that's the only win I have for the holdovers, and the fact that they did like it as much as they did, this could be where they give that movie its award.
Alec?
Okay, I think I'm the only person here predicting that Randolph loses at BAFTA. In fact, this is going to shock people. I've earned third place. Now,
Oh, Tariq.
the three contenders the Oscar, Claire Foy and Sandra Hüller, Rosamund Pike. I think we can eliminate them because I don't think BAFTA voters will go for a performance that's not up for the Oscar. I don't think. So we have those other three, Brooks, Blunt, and Randolph. Now, I'm picking Emily Blunt because, Daniel, you mentioned that she was, a BAFTA nominee for Girl on the Train and for Devil Wears Prada. And, she has the hometown advantage, and Oppenheimer's going to do so well. I think that Blunt could, pull it off. We have seen in certain years where it's been, a somewhat competitive, year for supporting actors. We've seen them go in different directions. Kate Winslet winning for Steve Jobs last year, Carrie Condon winning for Banshees of Inisherin. The year of 2018 when Rachel Weisz won for The Favorite. I know Regina King, the Oscar winner, was not nominated, but we've seen them do their own thing. So I think they can easily go for Emily Blunt. And also, now I have Danielle Brooks in second because I can picture a lot of BAFTA voters watching the holdovers. They know she's that Randolph has gotten all this acclaim and all these awards. She's won the Golden Globe Critics' Choice. I can see a lot of BAFTA voters watching the holdovers and saying, okay, she was fine, she was good, but what's the big deal? I think a lot of them objectively will say that Brooks was better, and they could actually vote for Brooks instead. So I think Brooks has a very good chance of, of winning at BAFTA and pulling off an upset. And also, too, there could actually be a Brooks Randolph split, which would help Emily Blunt. So I think Emily Blunt wins. I think Brooks is very possible. And again, I think Randolph loses. I've got her in third. And I've never been on the Randolph, bandwagon this season. I still think it's going to stop very soon once we see the industry folks weigh in. So I think BAFTA is where it happens, and it's either Blunt or Brooks. That's my word.
Marcus?
I think Devine has the Oscar locked up, but I could see her losing this. I'm not quite bold enough to predict her losing, but I do have Emily in second place. And just selfishly, I would love an Emily Blunt BAFTA speech. And, Devine, we've seen her give a couple speeches already. She's probably going to give the Oscar speech, like I just said. Let's maybe spread the wealth a little bit and have somebody else win one of these other awards. Okay?
Good point.
I'd like to see that too. Like I this feels like an odd category to me because it doesn't feel like a Divine Joy Randolph. That's a performance that should be sweeping. Like, I mean, it would be a worthy Oscar winner, but like it seems odd that it has sort of picked up. It seems like an inevitability at this point, even though it might not be. Again, we haven't seen the industry's awards pan out. So that could be a Golden Globe Critics' Choice mirage we're seeing. Yeah, so I am tempted to switch to Emily Blunt too, because I'm not super confident. I feel like Divine is a soft front runner.
I agree that Divine it's not a showy performance at all. It's very steady and smooth, but not the kind of thing that usually sweeps award shows. I agree.
I mean, leading into the next category, that would leave me having Oppenheimer winning actor, supporting actress, and supporting actor. So I'm a little leery about that for me. But maybe it happens. I mean, Everything Everywhere did it at the Oscars last year, so who knows? So moving on to supporting actor, I'm going with Robert Downey Jr., and I don't really have a case to make other than this one seems like the only steamroller in the acting categories of the year for me. I mean, I just can't imagine anyone else winning this. And Ryan Gosling, I mean, God help him if he's the only award winner for Barbie. I mean, like, after everything that's been made of all of Margot and Greta being left out of things, if Ryan Gosling walks away as the most awarded person for Barbie, that's not.
That poor man is going to be wearing pink the rest of his life.
Yeah, it's not going to be. It's not a good look.
Yeah, it sort of reminds me of the year where there was a little bit of a backlash around like Creed getting the one nomination for the white actor, and then Straight Outta Compton also getting just the one nomination for its all white writing staff. So, yeah, the man getting the awards run for Barbie would be fitting to the film's themes, but not in the way that I think they would like.
Well, my question would be, who is second place in supporting actor? I think we all are probably predicting Robert Downey Jr. At Gold Derby, our odds have Ryan Gosling in second, but he has 74 votes for second. Like Downey Jr. is so way up high. He has 2,077. He's got 2,000 votes more than second place.
For that reason, I'm picking Dominic Sessa second, the non-Oscar nominee. You know, I think he should have been not. I mean, I'm not sure who you would have taken out of the Oscar race. I think he should have been nominated there. You know, I've actually seen. I'm guilty of having seen The Holdovers 3 times. I'm just having. It's not because I'm so completely infatuated with it, but I just keep going with people that haven't seen it yet. And the more you see this film, the better his performance gets. He is so good for a young man that had literally never been on camera before, except like his family's home movies. Phenomenal performance. And no, of course he's not beating Robert Downey, but yeah, and he's a distant second, but that's who I'm putting second. Yeah, Ryan, I'm sure Ryan Gosling is rooting against himself at this point.
I would also say De Niro, for me, if we're talking about performances, this was his best performance in like
probably 20 years.
Thank you. I totally agree.
For me, he was the best part of Killers of the Flower Moon. And so if the tide ever turns for him, maybe he would be second place. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I would vote for him if I was a voter in this category.
Yeah, you know, folks, one reminder, last year in this category, we thought that Ke Huy Quan in Everything Everywhere was pretty much safe, and he lost to the Baptist to Barry Keoghan for Banshees of Inisherin. So I don't see Downey losing, but it was interesting. And by the way, last year, Barry Keoghan, who was such a shocker, he had a speech ready, didn't he? And I wanted to ask you, wait, you actually thought you had a chance? So, but no, I think Downey takes it. I would put Paul Mescal second, but it's a guess, but it's irrelevant because I think Robert Downey Jr. is so safe here.
Yeah, I agree. Downey Jr. All the way here. He's our sweep, and it's the kind of performance you would expect to sweep for the kind of performer you'd expect to sweep. It's sort of like it's a big showy performance. It's also an actor who has paid his dues. You know, is a huge box office star as well as a respected actor. You know, this would be his first win at these awards. You know, throughout award season. For most of award season, you know, he's won like Globes, and I believe he won a SAG before.
Yes.
So you know, yeah, I think it's Downey all the way.
Hey Daniel, before we move on and we leave the acting categories, may I just ask one more question? How many of you have met Emily Blunt like this award season or a past award season? Just curious. Have any of you? How was she?
I might have, but I don't remember.
She was very great. I actually interviewed her with Rob Lake Correa over Zoom, and then I saw her at a party a few weeks later. She was very nice. She actually remembered Rob introduced his children to her, who they loved her and Mary Poppins, and she remembered. She's like, "Oh, you interviewed me with an Australian guy and his kids." She remembered that, which I thought was really, important.
Okay, yeah, see, Emily Blunt, I saw her at an Oppenheimer luncheon here in New York back in December, and when she came in, it was mostly Academy members. I was one of the few journalists, but she saw me, like I said, highlight, she knew me, and I met her once years ago, but she didn't know me from that, but I know she knew me from Gold Derby, because afterwards, when I went to go talk to her, she was so gracious. She seemed to know me from Gold Derby, and she's just so charming, and if she's, that charming on the campaign trail at BAFTA, I just have to think that she's going to have a really great chance, because she is just so gracious, so wonderful, and I think that if they love her as much as I think they do, she's got a great chance to win BAFTA. So just wanted to throw that out there. People, who know how the game works, that getting out there and talking to voters and being gracious, being likable, that can be a factor, and that could work in Blunt's favor, especially at BAFTA, where she is now important.
That's a good point, Tariq. We don't often talk about how liked or not liked the performers are and how that figures into the equation of their nomination or win. And that obviously makes a difference with voters. And
Right.
I think maybe it worked against somebody like Alexander Payne at the Oscars because he's had some issues in the past. And we can't discount that, the personality aspect of it.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm not sure what's going on in the UK, but in Hollywood, Paul Giamatti and Davai and Joey Randolph are practically going door to door.
Yeah.
There are events
Absolutely.
every single day here for the holdover. Like
Uh-huh.
it's constant.
The charm offensive works, it not to be minimized.
There was even a Only Murders in the Building panel I went to, and Davine was on the panel because she's a guest star, and Judd Apatow was the moderator, and he's like, "We're not here to talk about Only Murders. We're here to talk about the holdovers," which I thought was really funny.
Well, let's talk about the writing categories next. We've got Best Original Screenplay, where the nominees are Anatomy of a Fall. Barbie is an original here, but adapted at the Oscars. The Holdovers, Maestro, and Past Lives. I think this race comes down to 3, but really 2. I do think Barbie has a shot, but I really think it's between Anatomy of a Fall and The Holdovers, with Anatomy probably having the edge. Although I think The Holdovers is not to be discounted here. If Alexander Payne had a writing credit on it, it might have an even better shot because these awards, writing awards often go to writer directors. But even solo, David Hemmingson can pull this one out, I think. What do you think, then?
Yeah, I think this is Anatomy's big, easy win at BAFTA. They're recently became the front runner for the Oscar as well. I mean, they're now ranked first on their odds, and if people think they're going to win the Oscar, I think this is an even safer bet that they're going to win at BAFTA. So that's my prediction.
Tariq?
Yeah, Justine Triet, she has a directing nomination. She's not going to win there, so this is a consolation prize. And Anatomy of a Fall, I think for the BAFTA voters, it has more snob appeal than The Holdovers. It's French, it's European, it's mysterious, there's more intrigue. So I think that's the sexier choice. And Justine Triet, she wins Best Original Screenplay, a consolation prize for a Best Director, her loss there, but also as a way to reward the film, which BAFTA voters clearly do like very much.
Marcus?
Remember when Anatomy of a Fall won the Golden Globe for Best Screenplay? I believe that was in 4th or 5th in our predictions at Gold Derby. That was one of the biggest shockers of that Golden Globe night. Now, in the past, in the month since, everything's changed. Anatomy of a Fall is now the leader at the Oscars, the leader at BAFTA, and I'm going along with that as well. This is Justine's consolation prize. Is that what Tariq just said? I think that's a good way to put it.
And right?
Yeah, I'm making it unanimous. This looks like Anatomy of a Fall. I don't see it falling or faltering here. It's got momentum. It's got the European angle, which they love at BAFTA. As much as I love The Holdovers, this is not the category it's going to win in.
Well, let's talk about Best Adapted Screenplay, which I think is actually much more competitive. Certainly I could make a case for at least 4 of these, possibly all 5, honestly. The nominees there are All of Us Strangers, American Fiction, Oppenheimer, Poor Things, The Zone of Interest. I've got Poor Things. I'm not super confident in that. This could be part of an Oppenheimer sweep. Oppenheimer could just walk away with this. American Fiction is the most sort of writerly kind of, it's about writers, and the script is twisty enough that it sort of calls attention to its writing. All the Strangers got a lot of love. We talked about consolation prize for Justine Triet. This could be a consolation prize for Andrew Haig. Someone tell me which way to go with this. Let's start with Marcus.
At the Oscars, I have Barbie winning this one. So it's very interesting that it's in a different category here at BAFTA. And the odds front runner is Poor Things. And this is one where I'm going against the odds. I think, as I mentioned earlier, I have Oppenheimer winning 8, and this is one of the 8. I just think it's going to win director, it's going to win picture. Why not take screenplay as well? So I'm kind of banking on an Oppenheimer sweep here.
Howard?
Yeah, I think this is part of the Oppenheimer sweep, and the script really it's so masterful. There's so much research. It's so well written. So I think it really is a major achievement in screenwriting. And I think the opposition votes might go in a few directions where I think there will be support for Poor Things, even some for All the Strangers. But I don't see either one having a tally strong enough to overcome Oppenheimer, given how strong Oppenheimer is overall at BAFTA. So I think Oppenheimer does take it, not a lot, but I think it's pretty competitive here.
Denton?
I have Oppenheimer as well. And I do think it's part of the sweep, but I don't think this is like a clear path to Oscar for Oppenheimer. I actually think American Fiction can win at the Oscars, just by the split of votes and the type of screenplay it is. It seems, and the way that American Fiction performed overall with the Oscars, I think this could be where that gets awarded, but I don't see it happening at BAFTA for American Fiction. They didn't seem to like this movie that much. So I'm just
It's not called British fiction, it's American fiction.
So yeah, I mean, I don't think they'll relate to it in the same way that the overall Academy members might for the Oscars. But for this, I'm going with Oppenheimer. I do think Poor Things has a chance, but
Right?
And you're all wrong. I'm going with Poor Things here. I think it's the most unique script. I feel like that it's going to resonate with BAFTA voters. A little bit of snob appeal. Part of it is personal preference as well. I understand that Oppenheimer is a great film, but I feel it was a little, for my taste, a little overly talky. And I feel like this could be the category where that aspect of it works against it. So no, I think Poor Things noses it out here in this category finally. And I think it's a two film race. I don't see any of the other three having a shot. I may be the only person who also really didn't like The Zone of Interest. And I'm a Jew, so there.
You're allowed.
I thought it was really dull and sorry. Thought it was really dull and monotonous.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about Zone of Interest then, because we've got Best Cinematography. It's a nominee there, along with Killers of the Flower Moon, Maestro, Oppenheimer, and Poor Things. This feels like a pretty secure Oppenheimer win to me. Is anyone here not predicting Oppenheimer for cinematography?
Yeah, this is Oppenheimer. This is the one. This is one where it's almost impossible to vote against it. The cinematography was spectacular. No matter what you otherwise think of the film, it's an epic, and it has epic cinematography. And that all factors into Chris Nolan's direction too. So there would have been a time where I thought Killers of the Flower Moon would have had a shot here, but no, I think this is, except for picture and director, this is the surest category win for Oppenheimer.
Anyone have any other thoughts on this race, or can we move on to the next one?
Keep going.
All right, let's keep the ball rolling. We've got Best Costume Design, where I do think there is a conversation to be had. You've got the nominees: Poor Things, Barbie, Napoleon, Killers of the Flower Moon, and Oppenheimer. This feels like one of the battles that Poor Things and Barbie are going to have with each other. They have a few at these awards and at the Oscars to come. I would normally say, I think I have Barbie out front for the Oscars, but I have Poor Things out front here because it's the British film. So if it's close, I'm gonna err on that side. So I've got Poor Things winning this. What do you have, Tariq?
Yeah, I think it's Poor Things. I mean, it's the more prestigious picture, and the costumes in Poor Things really are beautiful. And Poor Things is up for Best Picture. They'll want to give it some awards elsewhere because it's going to lose there. And so yeah, I think Poor Things takes it. And really, I have to wonder if the Brits, when they look at Barbie and think, were those costumes? I mean, they might just think, oh, are those the costumes everyone in LA wears every day anyway? So I don't have to wonder if they really be that impressed by the costumes in Barbie. So I think Poor Things wins. I think Poor Things wins a few awards at BAFTA, mostly in tech categories, and this is one of them.
Hmm.
Marcus?
Costume design and production design often go hand in hand, and I'm going with Poor Things for both. A little spoiler alert. And also at the Oscars, I'm going with both. And I wonder, so many of the Barbie costumes just adapted the actual costumes from Barbie and Ken. So I wonder if maybe they get a negative point for that because some of them are not, original. But, Poor Things, the costumes were absolutely stunning. So I'm going with that one.
Right?
I'm going with Poor Things here as well, and I feel like if there's an upset to be had, it could be Napoleon. I know it's not getting a lot of love in other categories, but the costumes, the period attire is pretty impressive. Barbie, yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna, spoiler alert, support Barbie for production design, but for costumes, I feel like Poor Things. I agree with Marcus that this is, that they're incredibly original and eye-catching.
And then
I agree with Marcus. I'm going with Poor Things, and I have them doubling up with costume and production design. I do think it helps to be sort of the more original story, and we've seen these costume designers award these frilly dresses for years and years. So I'm just not sure they're ready to go for tank tops and swimsuits yet.
Good.
yeah, that would be a rare win for like such a contemporary film, even though it does have these fantasy elements and everything is pink and you have to design so many different costumes in that color palette. I think that is an impressive achievement. I believe that was a Project Runway challenge a couple times. Like you all have to use this color fabric. So it would win the Project Runway challenge. I do feel confident in that. Well, let's move on to Best Film Editing. The nominees are Anatomy of a Fall, Killers of the Flower Moon, Oppenheimer, Poor Things, and The Zone of Interest. With the way it plays with time, backwards and forwards in the story, I think Oppenheimer has this and cinematography feel pretty easy for me, at least for Oppenheimer. Does anyone else have something that's not Oppenheimer?
What does Tom O'Neill always say? It's the most editing. And what you just said, Daniel, going back in time over and over and over, there's a lot of cuts in this movie and there's a lot of storylines that are mingling together. And I mean, that's what the voters will look for when they're voting for best film editing. So I think this is one of the locks of the night.
I generally refuse to predict anyone whose movie's 3 hours long in an editing category, but I'm making an exception for Oppenheimer. But I will not go there for Killers of the Flower Moon. I think 3.5 is just too far for me.
Yeah, compared to Killers of the Flower Moon, Oppenheimer is pithy. So if there are no other thoughts, we can move on to our next category, going once, going twice. And Sold to Best Makeup and Hair. We have the nominees are Killers of the Flower Moon, Maestro, Napoleon, Oppenheimer, and Poor Things. I've got Maestro winning this. I think it's a weak front runner. I could see Poor Things taking this. Again, Maestro has the most makeup certainly, but Poor Things does transform Willem Dafoe especially. And I've got Oppenheimer in third. I do think this is a close one. Ben, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm going with Poor Things myself, actually. I think Maestro is second. If they had had a category for most cigarettes smoked on camera, it would have been Maestro. God, they smoke a lot in that film.
I think Golda, if you've seen Golda, she's smoking the entire movie, so that would have been nominated.
I actually got something in my email from someone talking about the correlation between coffee consumption and Best Picture winners.
I think I got that email too.
I got the same thing.
Right, and I think Killers of the Flower Moon is supposed to win Best Picture based on the amount of coffee drank, which I wouldn't have expected. But in terms of makeup and hair, yeah, I think Poor Things is worked for me. I don't. Here's a category that I don't think Oppenheimer should be a front runner. We don't necessarily think of what amazing hair and makeup the father of the atomic bomb had.
Well, they do age him in like the very end of the films.
That's true.
So I feel like it's got the nomination mostly for that.
And Robert Downey Jr. looks like a different person.
Let me just ask, why didn't Barbie make this? Wouldn't you think makeup and hair is like at the top of the list?
Weird Barbie. I mean, Kate McKinnon, she should have been nominated alone for this category.
Yeah, true.
Why wasn't it eligible? Maybe Tariq knows the answer to this. Why didn't Barbie make the short list at the Oscars for hair and makeup?
Yeah, I don't even know. Just the branch, I guess, didn't think that it was maybe it wasn't seen as a significant achievement enough, that it wasn't groundbreaking in any way. Perhaps that's my only guess. But here for BAFTA, I do think I'm guessing Maestro. Given that the film was well received, nominations for Best Actor and Best Actress and Best Director. The makeup is so obvious, in Maestro. It's so in your face, no pun intended. That it seems like a place just to throw Maestro a bone. So I guess it's Maestro, but not luck. I can easily see Poor Things taking it. But I will stick with Maestro.
Yeah, I do have Maestro winning this one by a nose, and it's the only win I have for Maestro.
Did you mean that on purpose?
Of course I did.
Okay, thank you. Thank God. Although you know what, for all of the furor about his prosthetic nose, it actually is pretty seamless, and you don't notice anything. And that I guess speaks to the makeup.
Your prediction yet?
I can't remember if I did, but I'm going with Maestro. And I could see Poor Things winning. I think even an alternative could be Napoleon. If that movie wins anything, it'll be this. But I think Maestro's pretty safe with the Best Actor nomination.
Then we've got Best Production Design. We have the nominees are Barbie, Oppenheimer, Poor Things, Killers of the Flower Moon, The Zone of Interest. I think this comes down to Poor Things and Barbie, although with its Art Directors Guild win, I think we also have to consider Oppenheimer a threat here. Though I think Oppenheimer is a solid third in this. I think it's still a race between Poor Things and Barbie because they're much showier. Again, in a close race, like with costume design, I'm leaning towards Poor Things. What do you think, Denton?
I have Poor Things, and it is a close race between them and Barbie. They're very different sets. I interviewed the production designers for Poor Things, and what they did is pretty astonishing, and working with miniatures, and they worked in the hugest sound stages, and basically hired every construction worker that's working in Budapest to create these spaces, and it's a complete fantasy world. So I think now that we're getting to these industry awards, I think Poor Things is going to pick up steam in this production design category. I have them going all the way through to the Oscars.
Tariq?
Yes, I have Poor Things for production design because it is just so dramatic. It's so beautiful. It's so stunning that you just can't deny visually how extravagant Poor Things is. And Barbie, it's well done, but it can't compare to Poor Things. And really nothing else here. Again, everything perfectly done, but just visually, it doesn't have the same impact that Poor Things does. And also Poor Things, it takes us through so many different locations, and it changes so much. And even in every different scene, it's just so beautiful that I have a hard time seeing Poor Things losing to Barbie or Oppenheimer here or at the Oscars. That's my sense.
Marcus?
Yeah, this is one where I totally disagree with our odds. Our Gold Derby odds have Barbie winning this one, and I think Barbie's in third place. I have Poor Things winning, and I have Oppenheimer in second. Those are the two Art Directors Guild winners. And um, Denton, you interviewed the Poor Things designers. I interviewed the Oppenheimer designers. They're out there campaigning, and they created a whole town, Los Alamos, New Mexico. They created the bomb. They did a lot of work on this movie, so it's definitely in first or second. I have Poor Things winning because of the matchup with costume design and production design, but I could easily see me being wrong on this one.
Right?
I had Barbie until about 40 seconds ago. And then and the chatter here convinced me to change to Poor Things. So I am now on team Poor Things. It made a lot of sense, based on what happened in Budapest and everything else, and the way it they worked with miniatures and everything else. But it could, but Barbie's obviously, to my mind, is a close second.
I am nervous about the Oscars for costumes and production design because this does remind me a little bit of The Favorite, where it was sort of a two-way race between a Yorgos Lanthimos period film and a big blockbuster, fantasy film. Then it was Black Panther, and Black Panther ended up taking both. And now we've got Barbie, which has the potential to take both. So I am a little wary of that, but I do think Poor Things has a lot showier production design, especially. It's recreating these cities, but in fantastical, non-realistic, expressionistic kind of ways that are that really call attention to the design of them in a way that The Favorite didn't quite. But I'm still wary of that happening again here. Us getting a couple of Barbie wins instead of Poor Things wins.
And last year at the Oscars, production design was one of the biggest shockers of
Right.
all 23 categories. It went to All Quiet on the Western Front. I believe that was in fourth place in our odds. So not a lot of people saw that one coming.
Yeah.
Okay, for Best Score, the nominees are Killers of the Flower Moon, Oppenheimer, Poor Things, Saltburn, and Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Also, that one, awesome choice, but I think this is going to Oppenheimer won the Grammy, obviously the most important precursor. Although for music, maybe it is the most important precursor because we don't get many music precursors. It did win the Golden Globe as well. This is another one I'm not questioning. Does anyone not have Oppenheimer here?
I have Oppenheimer, but I could see some votes for Killers of the Flower Moon because of Robbie Robertson. And Poor Things, best score. Emma Stone's character was scoring every 5 seconds in that film. So I don't know. No, yes, sorry, I just needed to get that line in.
Yeah, I think Oppenheimer is pretty safe here. I do personally love the Spider-Man soundtrack, but I think that if it were to win, that would be one of the biggest shocks, of all time.
Okay, let's move on to Best Sound. The nominees are, we've got Oppenheimer again, along with Maestro, The Zone of Interest, Ferrari, and Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1. Now, you think the loudest film wins, that might benefit the vroom vroom of Ferrari, or Tom Cruise hanging off of every vehicle imaginable in Mission Impossible. But the atomic bomb, like how do you beat the atomic bomb? Does anyone think Oppenheimer is losing this?
I interviewed the sound designer for Maestro, and talking about how, putting people basically in the middle of an orchestra in the theater. And it's really pretty phenomenal if you really sit and listen to that aspect of Maestro, especially, the scene where we see the lengthy Leonard Bernstein conducting near the end of the film. I'm actually going with Maestro here, even though I feel like I'm probably going to lose. For that reason, I feel like I need to be loyal to the guy I interviewed.
When I watched the Oppenheimer trailer, I guess about a year ago now, I said, "Oh, well, that's going to win the Oscar for Best Sound, right?" So I'm sticking to my guns. This prediction's a year old for me, so I'm talking about the Oscars, but obviously, BAFTA often lines up as well.
Denton, do you have any thoughts?
No, I'm going with Oppenheimer. Even though, when I saw the movie in the theater, and it could have been the theater I was in, but there were moments of that film where I couldn't understand what they were saying. And the background noise was too loud. I couldn't understand what people were saying. So I don't know how nitpicky people are going to be. But that was just something that stood out for me that,
Hmm.
if I was voting, I probably would vote for Maestro.
Tariq?
Yeah, I think it's Oppenheimer. I think it's going to win many, many categories at BAFTA, and this is one, a tech category, which seems kind of like a no-brainer, I think. So Oppenheimer for sound.
I will say a word about the zone of interest. I do think that's in my number 2 spot. I think that has a shot just because it has a very a much talked about use of sound. Like its sound is very conspicuous in that it became part of the story of the making of that film and of the impact of that film, is how it uses the background noises of Auschwitz to really contrast with what's going on in the foreground in this idyllic home, this Nazi home. So I do think that one, if there's an upset, I can see it happening. But yeah, I'm going with Oppenheimer. That brings us to Best Visual Effects, which is a weird one for me this year. I honestly can be convinced to go any of probably 3 different ways in this category. The nominees are The Creator, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, Napoleon, and Poor Things. So nobody has to worry about Oppenheimer here, but that also means that we don't have an easy prediction for Oppenheimer here. It means it's harder to predict, damn it. I'm currently going with Poor Things, with the logic that the most Best Picture-y nominee in visual effects tends to win. I know that's true at the Oscars. I don't know if it's as true at the BAFTAs. I know The Creator is leading our odds. But I think if Poor Things had gotten in at the Oscars, I'd be predicting it to win. Even if it only snuck in like 5th place at the Oscars for the nomination, I think it could then win just based on like 1917 won. I think it beat Avengers Endgame. Like they're so Best Picture driven in the industry when picking visual effects. So that's why I'm not predicting The Creator. And I think Napoleon's got a good shot too. So those are the 3 I'm really torn between. What are you going with, Marcus?
It's very interesting because the winner here at BAFTA could very well be Poor Things, which is snubbed at Oscars. The Oscar winner could be Godzilla, which is snubbed at BAFTA. Which has this ever happened before, where the 2 winners of these 2 award shows got snubbed at the other one? Right now, I don't know what to do. I switched today to Poor Things. I put Napoleon in second. For me, Guardians of the Galaxy had the best visual effects, but it seems like it's not snobby enough for some of these awards groups. But I mean, that's where my vote would go if I was a voter.
I just think anything called Volume 3 is a bitch.
Right.
Yeah.
Tariq?
Yeah, I have The Creator because it is nominated for visual effects at the Oscars and has a chance to win there. I don't have it winning, but has a chance there. And usually, the BAFTA visual effects usually does match up with the Oscar when they're both nominated. So I feel like The Creator, being the strongest Oscar contender in the bunch here, is the likeliest winner. So The Creator, that's my choice. I could be wrong, but I'll go with it.
Denton?
I have Poor Things as well. But I do think I think it could go either way between Poor Things or the Creator. If the Creator wins, I'm definitely picking it for the Oscars. Because the Oscar race is much more wild in my eyes. I don't know where to go. I mean, I guess it's pretty close, but between that and Napoleon, I think there's some stats that we were talking about before where visual effects often lines up with at least some other nominations, and the creator is not getting anything, and Napoleon does have other nominations. So this could be a surprising win. This will be an interesting to watch. Make or break your ballot with visual effects.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I'm with Tariq. I'm going with the creator here. Even, and it's a little bit of a coin toss, but anyone who wonders why the budgets of studio films are so high, all they have to do is look at the creator, check out the IMDb page on the creator and look up visual effects. I think there were 700 people listed on IMDb under visual effects for this film. And I'm thinking, if even 400 or 500 of them are Academy members, that's gonna give it a leg up on the competition. If I was voting, I would go with Poor Things, but I feel like the creator is going to beat it in BAFTA.
Next up is a category that keeps me up at night because I don't know how to judge how they're judging it. And we're going to have this problem at the Oscars too. Best casting has been added to the Oscars either next year or the year after. I can't remember which.
Next year, yeah.
You know, the nominees are All of Us Strangers, The Holdovers, Anatomy of a Fall, Killers of the Flower Moon, and How to Have Sex. Our odds at Gold Derby say All of Us Strangers. I am inclined not to predict it because it literally has 4 actors. It doesn't even have much of a supporting cast beyond that 4. I think it's like they're the only ones with speaking roles, except for maybe like a waitress in one scene. So I don't think it'll win with just the, you know, that smaller cast. So I'm going with Killers of the Flower Moon. You know, it has a large sprawling cast. It's casting well-known actors as well as less famous indigenous actors. You know, so I'm giving that the edge over Anatomy of a Fall, which I have in second. This one I can be convinced to change my mind. What do you think, Tariq?
You know, honestly, I don't know. Killers of the Flower Moon, you actually make a good point about that. My reason for not picking it is because I thought Leonardo DiCaprio was kind of like miscast. And so, I mean, you know, casting the biggest star in the world in the lead role, is that really something worthy of an award for casting? I question that. But you make a good point about the supporting cast and how large it was, how many, you know, extras there were. So maybe that could be a factor. And maybe that could be it. You know, it's funny. Has anyone here seen How to Have Sex?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Because and really, they could have picked any random, like, you know, young, you know, teenagers or, you know, 20-something-year-olds to play those parts. So I don't know why that was even nominated. Watch that win now that I've said that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, it's funny. I had All the Strangers thinking that because I like the film so much. But yeah, you know, it could be Killers. This one, it's kind of a crapshoot. And I guess I'll stick with All the Strangers, but I'm ready to be wrong.
Marcus?
I just have a question. Was Oppenheimer not eligible for this? Does anyone know why it's not nominated here in Best Casting? Because I would be predicting Oppenheimer if it was nominated. But I do have All of Us Strangers, and like Daniel said, the fact that it's only 4 people makes me worried. But The Holdovers, I mean, let's be honest, The Holdovers was basically 3. They did have a lot more, you know,
they had
supporting
some great supporting roles, but
yeah.
Yeah.
But it's mostly, I mean, you think of 3 people.
Yeah.
Killers of the Flower Moon, you do think of a lot more. Maybe you just convinced me to switch to Killers of the Flower Moon. I don't know what I'm gonna do with this category. And for Anatomy of the Fall, the dog deserved a nomination. I'm just saying. Can we do a recount, please?
Right?
I'm going with your pick of Killers of the Flower Moon. I think if it's going to win anything, this is it. And it deserves to win something. I mean, it was an ambitious film, very well directed, you know, a little bit long. But you know, it certainly is. I don't think it's, as much as you love Thelma Schoonmaker, I don't think it's going to win editing. But casting, this seems like absolutely the right category. You know, that to honor it, because it had a lot of indigenous actors as well. I don't know how much that will matter to British voters, but it should have some impact.
Denton?
I'm confused. I don't know what to do in this category. I have Killers of the Flower Moon, and I have it there because it was the only SAG Ensemble nominee that's
Yeah.
nominated here. But yeah, when you're looking at it, they also did not nominate Leonardo DiCaprio or Lily Gladstone. All of Us Strangers and The Holdovers both have more acting nominees than Killers of the Flower Moon does.
Hmm.
So I'm not sure where this is going to go. Killers has the biggest cast. Um, I have no idea. I'm predicting Killers of the Flower Moon, and I'm prepared to lose a point there.
Yeah, so am I. That's one of those categories where if something wins, I want it. Like if something upsets, I want it to be something like How to Have Sex, so that almost everyone is wrong and it's not just me. I hate it when it's close and I miss it, and oh, I give up a point to so many people. Um, Speaking of close, I think Best Animated Feature is pretty close. Nominees are The Boy and the Heron, Chicken Run, Dawn of the Nugget, Elemental, and Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. I do think this just comes down to Spider-Man and Boy and the Heron. I'm going with the fancy snob appeal one with Boy and the Heron. Even though I know Spider-Man is ahead in our odds and it has a very good chance of winning as well. But after that Golden Globe win for Boy and the Heron, I realized, oh, okay, so it might not just be a walk in the park for Spider-Man. So I'm going with Boy and the Heron here. What do you think, Ray?
I'm with you. I'm going with Boy and the Heron also. Um, it's got a little more snob appeal than even though Spider-Man has been praised to the sky, deservedly so. And I actually think there's an outside shot of Chicken Run Dawn of the Nugget. Just because it's Aardman, it's a British company. It's very British film. I feel like it's got a shot for that reason. But yeah, I'm going with Boy in there.
Devin?
I'm going that direction too. Mainly because it's a new film. It feels a little bit more catered to BAFTA. I still don't know about the Oscar. I think Spider-Man might be too big to fail, and I feel like the cast is so big that half of the Academy is in Spider-Man. Um, but for me, Spider-Man, I loved the first one. It might be one of my favorite animated films of all time. The second one, for me, it was a lot to take in. I mean, it was like I felt like I was on mushrooms, or I should have been. Like it was just overwhelming for my senses. And I would love to see the Boy and the Heron take this just as something different because Spider-Man already has one.
I'm the exact opposite as Denton. I thought Into the Spider-Verse was fine, 4 or 5 years ago, but Across the Spider-Verse, I absolutely loved it. It's in my top three of the year. And even saying that, I'm predicting The Boy and the Heron to win because of what you all said. It's the snobbier one. It was the Golden Globe winner, kind of in a surprise. So I'm doing The Boy and the Heron. Elemental though was really good. I feel like Elemental needs to be more in the conversation, but unfortunately it's not.
And we seem to have lost Tariq, hopefully just temporarily. We will get his thoughts on Best Animated Feature, if and when he's able to return. But for now, let's move on to Best Documentary Feature, where the nominees are 20 Days in Mariupol, Beyond Utopia, American Symphony, Still, a Michael J. Fox movie, and Wham! Now, what's interesting here is that you've got, I believe, just the one Oscar nominee, which is 20 Days. I'm going with that one. I think that's going to take the Oscar too. What do you think, Den?
Yeah, I think 20 Days is a safe bet here, and I think it's a safe bet at the Oscars too, especially after Miskoslav's Chernov's DGA win last weekend for this film. Uh, I don't think anyone has to lose sleep over this category. Just go with 20 Days.
Right?
Yeah, I'm going with it as well. God, it's such a difficult film to watch. Beautifully done though, and makes its points eloquently. And I would be shocked if it lost this or the Oscars.
I agree with everyone. And didn't Denton, you just interviewed the filmmaker, right? Some of
Yeah,
the
it
different.
hasn't published yet. I interviewed them and just last night, and yeah, they were it was a lot of work and a lot of trauma to be there and witness everything that was in that film, and it's hard to watch. I mean, there's dead babies. It's like it's war uncovered, like no one wants to see it, but we really need to. And I think that just the timeliness of it and the impact, it's gonna go all the way.
For Best Foreign Film, the nominees are Anatomy of a Fall, The Zone of Interest, Past Lives, 20 Days in Mariupol, and Society of the Snow. Now, in this case, I don't think it's going to be 20 days. I think it's going to be pretty easily Anatomy of a Fall. At the beginning of the season, I thought like foreign categories were going to lean more towards Zone of Interest, but Anatomy has just drank its milkshake at every time that they're nominated against each other. So the UK must be breathing a sigh of relief that France decided to submit The Taste of Things for the Oscar, which wasn't nominated. So it's got kind of an open lane at the Oscars. But here, I do think it's going to go to Anatomy of a Fall. It's the Best Picture nominees. Zone of Interest missed the Best Picture category, even though it got a bunch of other nominations. So yeah, I think this is going to be pretty easily Anatomy of a Fall. What do you think, Ray?
Yeah, I agree. Anatomy of a Fall. Although, just from a personal taste perspective, I love Society of the Snow, and feel like it's a great film. And I'm not going to say unheralded because it's nominated, but not necessarily given its due for what a great film it is. Given what we know about Anatomy of a Fall and the momentum it's already built, I think it's got this pretty easily.
Marcus?
Yeah, I've got Anatomy. It has so much more broad appeal than some of the others. I mean, it's a really well-written murder mystery that keeps you guessing. That's the kind of thing that everyone loves. There's no Nazis in it. There's no human flesh eating in it or dead babies. So I think Anatomy has the it's gonna win here.
This is a rather dark category when you put it that way.
It's kind of true. Not a lot of laugh riots here.
No, not at all.
But
Right?
Celine Song did just win the DGA, I'll mention, for first time director. So I mean, she's still in this race for best foreign film.
I can't remember. Did Ray or Denton not go yet?
I haven't gone, but I don't have a lot to add. Anatomy of a Fall, I think, is going to take this. Although the Zone of Interest is well respected. Also, I mean, it nominated for director as well. So I'm with Ray though. If I was voting, I would vote for Society of the Snow. When I saw that, I thought, oh, this one's gonna ramp up and kind of take people by storm, and it just didn't really happen that way. But Society of the Snow was fantastic. But I'm predicting Anatomy of a Fall to continue their award streak here.
I think Society of the Snow needed an earlier release. Like it needed time for people to like it. It could have octopus teachered this thing. If it had come out a little earlier, had more chance to build that word of mouth. By the time it's really started to get going, so many people were already raving about Anatomy of a Fall and Zone of Interest. That I don't think it had enough of an enough.
I think they call that color purple syndrome.
Yes, that did not help the color purple either.
It's hard to open on Christmas or later at this point, and Society hit Netflix in January, so it's too late.
Yeah. And I mean, Oppenheimer was July last year. Everything Everywhere was April. It seems to be the earlier you come out, the more people will talk about you throughout the year.
Origin, another film this year that just missed everything and came out way too late, like just a total misfire on whoever was marketing that film. So.
And for 2024, I mean, Dune Part 2 is opening. Is it March? I forgot, but it's opening very soon, and that's going to probably win a few Oscars next year.
Yeah, I think an early release date almost helps nowadays because you have a chance to kind of be the thing everybody compares you to. This year, even Past Lives, even though it only got, it didn't dominate the nominations. It was released in what, March or April, and survived to get a Best Picture and a Best Screenplay nomination at the Oscars, and a couple here as well. Open early is better than opening too late. You gotta, the hardest part of any Oscar campaign is to get your movie seen. So if you beat the rush, sometimes that pays dividends.
And
Used to be
everything
the
everywhere,
reverse.
everything everywhere was a February, wasn't it? February release.
February or
Almost a year in
March.
advance.
March.
Yeah,
And
it
then
was. Yeah.
And then Oppenheimer was summer, so I mean, having a Thanksgiving or Christmas release date is a thing of the past. They don't have to abide by those rules anymore.
Mhm.
Now we have Best British Film, which has 10 nominees, and they are Poor Things, The Zone of Interest, All of Us Strangers, Saltburn, How to Have Sex, Rye Lane, Napoleon, Wonka, Scrapper, and The Old Oak. I think this really comes down to probably just three, although I really think it's the Best Picture nominee. It's Poor Things. But I think Zone of Interest also has a decent chance here. All of Us Strangers has an outside chance, although I think it's an underdog. What do you think, Denton?
I think it's Poor Things. Although you never know what direction they're going to go in a specifically British category. These films just don't seem super British to me. I mean, the top front runners anyway. But in general, if you look back at this category, it does typically go to something in like a Best Picture category. And if you think Best Picture, Poor Things would be the most likely to win Best Picture. I think previous winners were like Promising Young Woman and I can't remember everything, but generally it goes to,
Banshees won it last year, I think.
yes. So generally it goes to a Best Picture front runner, and with something like Oppenheimer not in the race, I would say Poor Things is the favorite here.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Poor Things by a fairly comfortable margin. All of Us Strangers, Zone of Interest, possibly even outside shot Napoleon, just because it's an epic, a historical epic. But especially given the number of nominations and the respect it's built up, I think Poor Things is a pretty safe bet.
And Marcus?
It would be very strange to me if Poor Things didn't win this, because it's the only one of these 10 that's nominated for Best Film of the Year. And so it would kind of blow my mind that, something else, if Saltburn won this, it's like, well, you liked it as a British film, but not as a regular film. It would be hard to wrap my brain around that. What'd you say?
It's the best at being British.
Mm.
The most Britishness in a motion picture.
Mm-hmm.
In which case, All of Us Strangers would have a shot.
For me, this one's Poor Things. Yeah, I'm not even really considering anything else here.
And that brings us to the last award, the Rising Star Award, which is for breakthrough talents, essentially your best new artist category at the BAFTAs. I believe this is voted on by the British public. The nominees are Jacob Elordi, Ayo Edebiri, Mia McKenna-Bruce, Phoebe Dynevor, I might be pronouncing her name wrong, I apologize, and Sophie Wilde. I've got Jacob Elordi winning this. He's popular. He's not American. Being American is a jinx in this category, so you want to be not American to win this. He had a big year with both Saltburn and Priscilla. He's built up a fan base on Euphoria, which I'm sure is known in the UK. I'm not sure how its popularity there compares to here. I'm going with Jacob Elordi. What do you think, Marcus?
I forgot that the fans voted for this, so I'm stupidly predicting Ayo Edebiri as opposed to, the heartthrob Jacob Elordi. I need to switch to Jacob. I'm going to do that right now.
He's also the only man in this category, which gives him a little bit of a boost. And I definitely think he's the most, Twitter, Instagram
Handsome hunky.
favorites. So public vote, a lot of years with this public vote, especially being in the UK, and I'm not always familiar with the pop culture differences and who's hot there. But we've seen surprises in this category, and it's been tough to call, but I feel like this is one year where it's not that difficult. I think Jacob Elordi has this pretty locked up in the bag.
Right.
Yeah, Jacob Elordi for sure. Iowa Devery, if this was, rising American star, although she's already basically risen in America. Yeah, I think Jacob Elordi has this one in, pretty safely. He's also really good, he's terrific and has a real charisma and in everything he does, and that's got to factor in.
It's sort of a coincidence that Jacob and Io both hosted SNL back to back last month. And Jacob, I'm sorry, he was one of the worst hosts of the year, and Io was one of the best hosts of the year. So that was part of the reason I was going with Io. But I mean, the British fans are not going to be judging this based on who hosted SNL better. So I'm switching to Jacob.
She's also sort of almost not a fair comparison because she's, so such an improv baby and such a stand-up, and I imagine that isn't really his strong suit.
Well, that is the BAFTA Awards. We are hopefully going to be right about every category, although we disagree about some. So hopefully I'll be right in every category, and the rest of you will be slightly less right. But the BAFTA Awards are happening on February 18th. And at Gold Derby, you can still predict the BAFTA winners. You can also predict the winners of the Oscars, the Emmys, the Makeup and Hairstylists Guild Awards, the Visual Effects Society, Costume Designers Guild, SAG Awards, Producers Guild, Independent Spirit Awards, Cinema Audio Society, American Society of Cinematographers, the MPSC Golden Reel Awards, the 8th Eddie Awards, a number of reality shows, and the Grammys for Album of the Year for next year already. So, you have plenty to occupy yourself at Gold Derby. Make sure to get your BAFTA predictions in before this weekend, before our system closes down. And we will talk to you about SAG Awards next week. We will see you then.